What you're looking at now is a dead MMO called Tabula Rasa. The creative director of this game was the one and only Richard Garriott, the creator of the Ultima series. Unfortunately, this game was shut down in 2009, about a year and a half after it was launched. It's been down for 17 years now as of 2026, and there's no reason to believe it'll ever come back. This is the fate of every server-based game. Eventually, the servers will go offline permanently. Bits and pieces of these games can be saved, but anything that comes from the server is stuck there and can't be preserved. Here you can see me running around an empty map from the original version of Final Fantasy XIV. But there's no enemies or NPCs because the server handled all the enemy spawns and NPC behavior. This is what makes online games so hard to preserve. You can't play offline by yourself because half the game code is on a server that you have to connect to. I want to talk about some of the efforts people have made to save some of these MMOs, but before that, I want to look at some of the games that are most at risk. I think it's pretty likely that these games will be shut down within 5 years. Final Fantasy XI was almost shut down in 2024, but Square decided to keep it alive. For now. Square's been shutting down server-based phone games left and right lately, and FF11 has been online for over 20 years at this point, so it must be near the end of its lifespan. I think it's likely that Square will consider shutting this game down again in the next few years. Rift is in a weird place. It used to be a real competitor to World of Warcraft, and it had some unique aspects to it, like the rifts that would open up randomly in the world map. The original developer, Trion, was bought out by a publisher that focuses on free-to-play games. It still gets minor updates and bug fixes, but I could see this one getting shut down at some point soon. Now for the Elder Scrolls Online, apparently half the team for this game was laid off recently. That's not a good sign. It'll probably stick around for a while, but I don't think it's likely that new major content will come as often. This is one to keep an eye on. It could go away in a couple years or stick around in maintenance mode. I could go on with more examples, but I think you get it. Some of these games are older than dirt, and the newer ones aren't safe from the modern industry practice of mass layoffs. Let's get into the preservation attempts now. First, we'll look at how the companies try to preserve these games, then we'll see what the fans have done. Dragon Quest X was remade as an offline single-player game, which sounds good, but there's two problems with this. First, it doesn't preserve the original game. It saves the story and world, but is fundamentally a new game. Second, they didn't even remake the whole game. They did the base game and the first expansion. Once you get through that, they try to entice you into starting the MMO to see what happens next. I hope they make some sequel to Dragon Quest X offline in the future, but I doubt it'll happen. It's not perfect, but I like the idea of remaking MMOs as offline games. You'll never really be able to preserve the highly populated servers with real people on them, so making a standalone single-player version of the game makes sense, even if it is more of a replacement and not exactly preservation. Unfortunately, it looks like Dragon Quest X offline is the only game of its kind. No other MMO has had a single-player remake. EverQuest has special time-locked servers that recreate the original progression of the game, releasing more expansion content over time. They start new ones every once in a while, so you can join it early and see what the game was like at different stages of its life. It's a cool idea, and it accomplishes things that an offline remake can't. It still has multiplayer and still has big updates with expansions full of new content. But at the end of the day, it's still a server-dependent game, and it'll eventually go offline forever. Blizzard is doing something similar with World of Warcraft, but it's not as good. They have WoW Classic, which sticks with the base game forever, and another version that's basically the same as retail WoW, but 10 years behind. This is better than nothing, but it still has the same problem as EverQuest. It's a server game. Nothing is actually preserved in the long term. None of these examples ever preserve the original games. If you want an example of that, you should look at Meridian 59. The creators released the source code for the game so anyone can host their own server. This is really the only way to save these games from being lost forever. I don't see any of the big companies ever doing this though. Could you imagine Square Enix or Blizzard releasing source code for anything? If you only look at official attempts to preserve these MMOs, it's not very impressive. But what about the fans? What have they done to save these games? This is Dragon Ball Online. It was shut down in 2013, but fans saved it by creating private servers. I'm not going to get into how they did it, but basically they create a server emulator for the game, and you can connect to it with the game client. It's all open source, so you can set up your own server and even play the game locally on your computer, completely offline. This is the only way to truly preserve MMOs, and if a bunch of fan volunteers can make private servers, then these companies can pay people to make offline updates or release the server code in some way once the game is dead. Private servers are a reality that the companies have to deal with. If they don't like it, they should offer a better experience and make an effort to preserve the games once it's time to stop supporting them. Unfortunately, private servers don't preserve the experience of playing an MMO while it's popular and full of players. But I still think the effort put into them is worth it. MMORPGs are massive games with a lot of love put into them, and it would be a shame if they just went away forever. A lot of MMOs are designed to be solo friendly these days anyway, so a lot of the content could be worthwhile to people who prefer single player games. Making a private server takes a long time and is really only done by hobbyists. They can't profit off of it legally. Some private servers get permission from the publishers, but that's extremely rare, and hobbyists can't save everything. Less popular MMOs will die and be forgotten before anyone can save them. I want to show off some of the games that fans have preserved. There's a lot of cool ones. I haven't played any of these that much yet since I'm just now getting into this genre, but I still think they look pretty cool and they're worth checking out. Shin Megami Tensei Imagine takes place between the events of SMT 1 and 2, which is one of the coolest worlds in any JRPG. I just played those two games for the first time recently, and yeah, I'm really a big fan of the series now, so I'm definitely going to check this one out. Ultima Online is one of the oldest MMOs and is part of the legendary Ultima series. This one is technically still online, but private servers turn the game into an offline single-player experience, which is exactly what I want. There's more faithful private servers too, so when the official servers for the game are shut down, it'll still be accessible thanks to the fans. Asheron's Call is another MMO from before the WoW era, and it's pretty solo-friendly. Of course, if you wanted to play multiplayer, you could join someone else's server, or start your own. Even if you don't feel like dedicating yourself to a long playthrough of a game like this, it's still cool just to run around and see what it was like. In the year 2099, people could load this game up and see what we were doing 100 years ago. Thanks to these private servers, history is preserved. There's a lot of games with private servers out there, but not everything can be saved. For the big popular games like Final Fantasy, Elder Scrolls, and World of Warcraft, there probably will be some form of official preservation, but then again, the companies might just throw everything away for one reason or another. And as for the less popular MMOs, if there's not a good private server for them right now, they could be doomed. I don't really care if these games are good or bad, I care more about preserving art and culture. But I bet if you watch this far into the video, you probably agree with me on this, and I can leave it at that. The last thing I want to say is, the situation isn't hopeless. If the Stop Killing Games movement gets some form of legislation passed in any country in the world, that means that any server-based game released globally would have to have a version with some functionality once the servers go offline. That doesn't necessarily mean the game will be fully preserved, but I imagine it would make the fan effort to rebuild these games way easier. Some of the more popular MMOs do supposedly have official plans for preservation, like FF11. According to this interview from 2025, the producer of FF11 said that their main goal is to support the current game, but they are also organizing and modernizing assets for a potential remake they could do in the future. I don't know if they'll ever actually go through with that, but it's nice to know that the producer is publicly talking about it. I plan on making videos about MMOs in the future and about how good the solo experience is, so if you want to see that, please subscribe. I won't have a video on that right away since MMOs are huge and take a long time to get through, but it is something I want to do. In the meantime, I'll do some other smaller vids and Gino will upload some reviews. Anyway, thanks for watching all the way through. See ya.